All right, guys. Morocco 4, the USA 0. Our summer of misery continues. And, oftentimes I get accused as a content creator of being quote unquote too negative. And so perhaps I was maybe too positive about this team after they got out of their group. And it was just refreshing to see some basic, competence against admittedly very poor teams. But this was a really disaster tournament as well, because even though we got out of the group, we failed at the first hurdle. And not only did we failed quite spectacularly. Who would have thought that bringing three MLS lifers as your three overage players would have not really been a successful move? Certainly not any of us who said that. But this team was outclassed, outcoached, out-hustled, out-fought, and out-managed on the field. And Marko Mitrovic should be pilloried for this whole tournament. Because, yes, I was just saying, Tac, I think I may have fallen into the trap of being a little bit too positive after the Guinea and New Zealand win. And sometimes I get accused of being too negative. But reality is those are very poor teams. And we, walked all over them. But Morocco, who's not even, a top 5 team in the world, should not be beating us 4-0. But when you bring a terrible roster, have terrible tactics, compound it with a terrible lineup, and then manage the game terribly, that's going to happen.
Yeah, again, Morocco's a good team. Let's just make that clear right away. But losing 4-0 is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. If we were going to go down, it should have been putting up a fight. We didn't put up a fight. We're going to talk about it. We're going to go into details, obviously. But from the issues of the persistence with Mihailovic, right? The lack of changes or just like late subs. Like we needed a goal, and he didn't make a change until they scored the second goal, and we were at the 65th minute when we were pretty much done, and the subs were terrible. Bringing players like Duncan Maguire, the roster construction, there's a lot of issues with it. And yeah, I think sometimes we can get caught up and become a little. Here's the problem: is very often we get called negative so much that when something good happens, we kind of try to be as positive as we can. But I think at the same time, we should start ignoring what people say, because if there's reason to be negative, you should be negative. And if you are consistently negative, that's probably because things aren't good, and they're not good. We're 2 years away from the World Cup. We had the worst possible summer we could imagine. Like the group. So when you look at the Copa America and the Olympics, you look at the groups we were placed in, the bare minimum was getting out of the group in each tournament. Well, guess what? We didn't get out of the group in the Copa America. And for this one, we got out of the group, and we didn't even put up a fight against Morocco. 4-0.
Yeah.
Didn't put up a fight. This was probably the worst we could have done throughout the summer. The only positive, I guess, that we take from the summer so far is that Berhalter's gone, but that will only matter depending on who we hire.
That's the thing. If we go get Cherundolo, it won't fucking matter. Now, to be fair, we're hearing that's not going to happen, at least not right now. But now more than ever, it is incumbent on U.S. soccer to get this hire right, because the enthusiasm and the passion around this fan base right now is at an all-time low. I mean, even we see it with these Olympic streams. We thought these Olympic streams would do better, but they're just not. Nobody seems to care. You diehards obviously care, but this is nowhere near a senior team stream, not even half, right? And so we sort of gauge interest and passion based on how much there is, and there's very little. And I don't blame people. I do not blame people when you're gaslighted and you root for a team that fails over and over, and then when you ask questions about it, you get gaslighted into being called toxic, then yeah, eventually you're just going to lose interest. I mean, you can only take an abusive relationship for so long, so I don't blame people for it. But to your point, Tac, after that Guinea game, I wanted to be like, I'm sorry, that was a joke. That Guinea team was terrible. We should have done a lot better. And I thought to myself, no, you know what, Pete? Maybe people are right. Sometimes you are just looking for the negative. I should have just trusted my eyes and my instincts, which almost never fail me. And I'm sorry. Guinea and New Zealand were awful, and they gave us ridiculous amounts of time and space on the ball, and so we were able to kill them. But other than that, when we faced even a competent team like Morocco, destroyed.
Well,
destroyed. And it's been
Pete,
6 years of failure now.
let's go back to the Copa America. When we defeated Bolivia 2-0, we talked about how we got the win, which a win is a win, but we talked about how the team didn't look good. There were major issues with that team. But beating Bolivia 2-0 at home is not really a major accomplishment. I mean, Panama went there and beat them 3-1.
Yeah, and we said that. We were like,
And
this
we
was
said
not a
that, but
good
we were
performance.
seen as overly negative. And then
No,
in
the
the
comments were brutal.
yeah, the comments were brutal. It's like you guys just want to see negativity. You guys are just like we're all just negative.
USMNT.
The problem with that is like I think me and you at least we don't give a crap that much, but because so many people there were so many comments calling us then the same people that called us negative disappeared after we got
Yeah,
grouped.
they all went
They
missing.
disappeared. But the truth is we don't want to be negative. And keep in mind for our channels, just to make one thing clear, when people say you do it for clicks and you do it for like listen, we would get a lot more clicks if we won a medal. We would get
Yeah.
a lot more clicks if we made it to a Copa America final. We would have made more money and we would have been much happier for the national team itself as fans and as professionals, I guess we can put it that way, as a job to cover the team and as a fan. We've been a lot happier with the deep run. What do you guys think will do better? For example, 2026, let's think for a second here. What will do better as a fan and for our channels? Will it be to get grouped in the World Cup or to make a deep run? Like it's a no-brainer. We want this team to do better. So when we're overly critical about it, that's the reason. We don't want to be negative. But give me a reason to not be negative. Give me a reason to not be negative right now. Pete, can you give me one reason?
No, I can't. I mean,
Okay.
maybe if they hire a good coach.
But so far we haven't. So there's no reason
we haven't. As of right now, it's up in the air. And I think we need to keep that pressure on them. You know, this is just such a disappointing, awful summer, and thank you guys keep us going, right? Because it's tough to keep doing this and putting as much time as we do into it when the interest, not only is the interest so low, but understandably low because there's so much failure, right? McBride was saying we dodged a bullet. What's the context of that, PJ? What do you mean that we dodged a bullet? Because that doesn't make any sense. What bullet did we dodge? The bullet hit us square in the head.
Well, we need to know
right
what he
through
meant.
our brains.
Yeah, it depends on what he meant. Like maybe he meant dodge the bullet of keeping Berhalter. I don't know.
I mean, McBride is like shill in chief. He's worse than Lawless. Wasn't he the one who said that Shaq Moore is the best
one-on-one defender? Yes,
best one-on-one defender we have, and that Ancelotti is not a modern coach like Greg.
Yeah, he implied that Greg Berhalter is a modern coach and that Ancelotti is outdated as soon as Ancelotti wins another Champions League.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody on the phone yesterday about this, and he was saying to me, I love you and Pete and all of that, but you guys sometimes, understand that these commentators, these mainstream media, they're in a box and they can't really say, the things that you can say. And I said to him, listen, we're not asking them to necessarily say what we say. We understand we have a lot more freedom because we're on YouTube, but you don't need to shill to that level, right? Number one. Number two, what happened to courage and integrity in society? Like these were great players, most of them, who played at high levels, who showed passion and heart and verve and courage for the men's national team. And then the minute they retire, they become these sniveling lapdogs, just sucking at the teat of whoever will fill their wallet. Okay? I'm sorry. I have zero respect, especially if you're already a multimillionaire. Tac and I have no money. We're both still renting, right? If we started shilling, we could probably get a job at CBS. This has been told to us, by the way, right? The reason all the mainstream networks won't hire us as commentators is because we say what we think. We could go down that route and start shilling, and we probably could get a job. But guess what? We have way too much integrity and passion for the state of the game in this country than every single guy who has represented this national team who then turns out to be a shill in chief. And then they get credit for saying Berhalter should finally go after one of the worst tournament failures in national team history.
I don't know, completely random, but what's his name? Brian McBride kind of reminds me of he looks like he could be like a cousin of Stifler from the first American Pie. Every time I look at him, completely off topic, but he reminds me of that.
I mean, his looks notwithstanding, he was a great player for us to the ability that he had. right? And that's what bothers me. Casey Keller, hey guys, don't boycott the sponsors. We need the sponsors. Fuck off, Casey. No, seriously, like the levels of shilling that comes out, and the reason I get so mad about this, guys, is because this is one of the reasons we are where we're at. The lack of accountability coming from our mainstream media allows USSF to continue to pull this nonsense. I get called, all kinds of names for saying we should have brought Diego Luna to this tournament. Hey, focus on the guys who are there. Stop talking about guys that are not there. No, I'm going to talk about whatever the fuck I want.
Well, also like there's players like, I'm sorry guys, Duncan McGuire should have never, like, besides the only thing that qualifies him for the US men's national team is the fact that he's American. Outside of that, there's no reason for him to be in the US men's national team. There's no quality.
No,
It's
Georgi Mihailovic failed at the
Mihailovic
Gold
too.
Cup. Okay, this guy was terrible at the Gold Cup. All right, a Gold Cup where us in Canada did not bring our best. Couldn't even hang in the Gold Cup. Couldn't hang in the Eredivisie. Malik Tillman is crushing the Eredivisie, and he's not even good for the national team. And yet somehow we think it's a good idea to bring him to this team. Let's bring him to the Olympics. He couldn't handle the fucking Gold Cup, couldn't make it in the Eredivisie, and had to come home. And by the way, I should tell you everything about MLS, that he looked so shit in the Gold Cup, but is crushing it in MLS.
Pete, there's a chat there from CC Heat. He's saying, Pete, Crocker is doing his thing per Tac. I never said Crocker is doing his thing. What we heard was that they are doing work in Europe. I have not spoken to Crocker, and I have no reason to trust Crocker. So if you ask me, I am very skeptical of Matt Crocker. I did not say Matt Crocker is doing his thing. This was the guy that rehired Berhalter. He still has to earn our trust. I did not say that.
Right now, it's result-based. You need to get a good quality coach. Okay? Good quality coach.
Matt Crocker and JT Batson are on fraud watch right now.
Yeah, they're on fraud watch right now. Cole says, I may be overreacting, but I'm so pissed at the senior players who declined call-ups. You should represent your country at every opportunity you have. Well, so I'm going to push back on that, and here's why. It depends why you decline a call-up. If I'm Giovanni Reyna, this is a very crucial summer for me to be there for preseason and to try to impress the new coach at Dortmund. So if that was his thinking, I don't mind it as much. Okay? But to your point, and to Tac's point earlier in the stream, the idea that this has such a strong culture, that Berhalter created this culture they love. Even Anthony Hudson was like, oh, they love playing for Pulisic. It's really important to him play for the national team. Guys. This culture thing is bullshit. There is no good culture. It's Pete, propaganda.
Look at what I shared with you. Put that on screen real quick. Tab Ramos just replied to my tweet shitting on Berhalter. So you can read it. Read it.
So Tac says, what a catastrophe summer for the USMNT. We have to figure it out ASAP. We have less than 2 years for the 2026 World Cup, and we are a complete joke. Tab Ramos says, hard to erase 6 years of methodology, correct, in a couple of months. This is why we still bring up Berhalter. And by the way, this roster was also very much heavily influenced by Berhalter. Hard to erase 6 years of methodology in a couple of months. It will take a different type of coach at the senior level, one with a very strong mentality as a start, hoping for a fresh start ASAP. Exactly. Okay? So people coming at me for still bringing up Berhalter, his fingerprints are all over this team. The way that they play, the way that the players that were brought, it's mediocrity to a T. Okay? And don't you worry, Greg Berhalter and Marko Mitrovic will get good quality jobs in the Disney Celebration of Soccer League, because that's what happens. They reward failure. In fact, they love failure. But I understand you being pissed, Cole. I get it. Jeff Carey, this summer has been a disaster. We could use some good coaching news. Also, Tac, please wear a blonde wig. It would make me feel better. I don't think Tac cares that much about your feelings, Jeff.
I also wouldn't look good with a blonde wig.
Maybe that's what would make him feel better. Maybe he's jealous of your dashing good looks.
It would be laughing. I like how Tab Ramos just straight up called up Greg Berhalter, but no one in the media will call up Berhalter.
Oh, no. He's a modern coach, Tac. He's a modern coach.
I think people don't realize how much damage Greg Berhalter has done to the U.S. men's national team program over 6 years, because
American soccer, period.
He put his tentacles on everything.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's
Um,
everywhere. It's everywhere. You know why these youth coaches like Mikey Varas, they get promoted to the senior team if they follow his methodology, right? So when Greg, even if he's not officially in charge, you see that, right? Oh, Mikey Varas played 4-3-3, so now he gets to go be an assistant coach, right? And also, you get to be an assistant coach. What's the next step? You get an MLS job. How many Greg assistant coaches got MLS jobs? Luchi Gonzalez did, Nico Estevez did, and BJ Callahan did, right? So all it is, oh, hey, over here, you do what Greg wants at the youth level. Then you get to go sit on the bench while he talks about African dogs and sneakers. And then you get an MLS job. And then you fail at that too. Because, by the way, both Nico Estevez and Luchi Gonzalez fired from their MLS jobs for being shit. Right? Hopefully, BJ does well. BJ at least comes away with some credit. But Lala's statement of this team for Copa still stands. Oh, you think this team would have done well in Copa? GTFO. GTFO. 8 goals conceded in 4 games. And that Copa team was terrible.
yeah, guys, you got to remember that the U.S. men's national team last year sent a team that was a little bit better than this one to the Gold Cup, right? Older players and all that, a little bit better. And we were eliminated by Panama. So MLS ain't enough to beat Panama. The MLS American players are not good enough to beat Panama. So if we sent this team to the Copa America, I think they would have gone toe to toe with Bolivia. I don't know if they
Probably
would have beat
drawn.
Bolivia.
No.
Maybe a tight win or a draw, be it toe to toe. Could have gone either way. Probably would have lost to Panama and would have gotten trashed by Uruguay.
Thumped by Uruguay.
Yeah, like 4-5-0. So, no.
Greenman says Brian McBride hired Mitrovic. Did he? Oh, yeah. He was the GM, the assistant GM when they hired Mitrovic. And he said he hired him because he looked like he had a lot of enthusiasm. Oh, my God. He said it in Call It What You Want podcast.
Well, hire me. I'll have a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, but see, also, this is why I don't listen to the Call It What You Want podcast, because they have got shills in chief talking about the national team there. I'm sorry. This is why I don't watch it. Not saying you shouldn't, Max Bredos. Red Wig, says Jeff Carey. I don't think there's going to be
my hair as it is.
I think our hair is going to remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, guys, this is depressing, and I'm surprised that I have to go on another rant again for a second time this summer. And it was just 1 month ago, Tac, that we got knocked out. It was June 1st that we got knocked out by Uruguay from Copa America, and today is August 2nd. What a ridiculous waste of a summer. And in case it couldn't get worse, the under-20 team has looked like shit the last 2 games. They look like shit.
We got lucky against Guatemala. They wasted a penalty
thank
kick
God
play.
for Andrew Beaudry.
Yeah, and then we played today against Panama, and I was assuming we were already in the final against Mexico. I thought we would be, but I'm not sure. We could lose to Panama. We could very well lose to Panama.
Yeah, we could lose to Panama tonight, and that would just round up the shitty summer that we're having. At least we're qualified for the Under-20 World Cup, but at this point, it's like if Michael Nessian is going to take it. See, that team was very poorly constructed, too, that Under-20. Why is Ben Kremaski here? What is he doing in this roster? He should be with the U20s right now. That's his level, okay? But he's here because Don Garber. That's it. He plays with Lionel Messi, so they get to promote Inter Miami a little bit. What's he doing here? He's not good enough. Why was Diego Luna not brought? And by the way, a lot of you are going to say, oh, Diego Luna would not have changed the result today. First of all, having Taylor Booth and Diego Luna on the field would have given us more of a chance. It's the same thing as saying if Gio Reyna had started against the Netherlands, we wouldn't have, lost. Maybe not. Probably not. I mean, probably yes, we would have still lost. But it is not okay for you to not put your best effort out there. That means a strong lineup, a good game plan, and good management, and a good mentality. That's what you push for. Because more often than not, when you do that, you're going to get close. Or if you don't get close, and then when you get close, you can edge it sometimes. Get a win. Berhalter still has zero wins against a team better than him in 6 years.
Well, and just to add to that, like the whole take of like, oh, if we had brought in this player that is slightly better than that player, we still would have lost. If that's the mentality, then it doesn't even matter who you bring. You can bring me. Like, look, if you started Jesus Ferreira up top, or tactical manager, we would have lost to the Dutch anyway. So start me.
Yeah.
It doesn't
No,
matter.
it's
It
a
doesn't matter.
really weak mentality, and I'm not going to tolerate
The-
it from anybody.
what we don't understand is like the following. It's like we're not saying you put Gio there or whatever, like Diego Luna, we win the game. It's all about putting the best players possible to increase the probability that you'll get a win. It doesn't mean you'll get a win. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah. And by the way, goals change games. Diego Luna does something filthy and unpredictable and scores a golazo before Morocco gets their goal. Now they have to come out at us, and maybe it gives us the confidence to defend better. You know what I mean? Like, goals change games. So never underestimate what predictable, creative, unpredictable players can do for a team, right? Oh, boy. Is there any positives to take from today?
No.
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 No, I mean, like we said, we could have lost them if we lost to Morocco in a tight game or something. That can happen, but it was 4-0, embarrassing. The team quit. The coaching staff was horrible. I mean, when we go through the player ratings, we'll go more through it. There's maybe one or two players that won't get a horrendous rating.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, but more or less, that there's no positive. Like you lose 4-0 to Morocco. No disrespect to Morocco, like we said, this is not a top 5 nation in the world. This is not a team that's going to win a World Cup. That's not how it's supposed to go.
No. Stop disrespecting Triple G. Heed the throat goat. Rehire. Thanks for the trolling. Oh, man. I'm just so tired of this. And people keep calling us negative. And what do you want us to do? Pretend that things are going well? I don't know, man. I literally got up at 5 a.m. with strep throat to do this. And this is the performance that this team puts on. It's just... I don't know.
Well, one thing we can ask everyone is to get the likes up in the video.
Yeah, help us out. Get the likes up, guys. I will say, if we're looking for a silver lining, I mean, I know the temptation right now can be to quit on men's soccer in America, right? 2 terrible tournaments, 2 terrible teams, didn't show up, terribly coached, terribly constructed. The natural instinct can be, let's just tune out. And I wouldn't blame you for that, but wait until the coach announcement. On the off chance that they do hire a good coach, it could change a lot. Look at the difference with the women's national team against Andonovski now versus Emma Hayes. Just look at the difference. So a good coach can change a lot, but it has to be the right coach. It has to be a coach that is going to get these guys in line. And like Tab Ramos said in his reply to Tac, it has to be a coach that is going to start with a mentality change. Because the mentality of this team, the under-23s and the senior team, has been really, really poor. Oh, God. MLS doesn't produce. Yes. Thank you, S27. As I've got some shit to say here. MLS doesn't produce anywhere near enough quality. Yeah. For everybody who was saying that Miles and Walker are good center backs and should be, this is my favorite one, in the mix. In the mix, Tac. In the mix. And what they mean by that is they should have been in the mix for the senior team. No, they shouldn't have. Okay, if you're an overage player and you conceded, your all MLS back line concedes 8 goals in 2 games. That's 2 goals per game. Okay, with a lot of shitty defending and terrible passing out of the back. You shouldn't be with the senior team, period. And by the way, why was Jalen Neal not brought? That's a guy who can pass out of the back. Why was Austin Trusty not brought? The problem is maybe they were turned down. I don't know. Like maybe they tried to bring them and the club said no. But more likely than not, they wanted to bring these MLS lifers in order to promote the league, right? That's probably what it was. So yeah, MLS doesn't produce anywhere near enough quality. The best young American right back in MLS right now is Nathan Harriel. He was a disaster today. A disaster. John Token, I don't understand all the love for John Token. He was okay against the poor teams, but overall, he's not a good option. To be fair, there's not a lot of good left back options after Anthony Robinson right now. They're all mid. Wiley, him, Lund. I haven't seen enough from Lund. Maybe he'll be good, but right now, I don't think there's a massive gap. At least he is in an environment, though, where there's some pressure, and good for Wiley for getting out of MLS. He will definitely be pushed in Strasbourg one way or another. But yeah, and by the way, who were our best players this tournament? It was probably Paredes and Yao, right?
Yao in the limited minutes he had, yes, but it is wasn't too good in the first game or so, but then
I
ramped
mean,
it up.
okay, yes, I agree. Nobody stood out in this tournament. He did create 2 chances against France, won 16 fouls over the last 4 games, scored 2 goals and set up another one and did a lot of good defensive work, you know?
Yeah, I think it's more about like who was poor and the poor players, the overage players. Miles and Mihailovic were abysmal, complete shit. They were terrible.
Yeah.
Walker Zimmerman had his moments. He wasn't horrible by any means, but also didn't stand out. Like we can talk about the second goal, whatever. I'm not going to be too harsh on Walker just because, mainly not because he was good, but more because just Miles and Georgi Mihailovic. Holy crap. Holy crap. Um, it's more of that, but like I think when we talk about player ratings, we'll talk more about the overall tournament of each one rather than just like today. But obviously, the rating is for today.
Clayton Samuels. A bit harsh of the call it what you want pod. Jimmy, Charlie, and Tony have been critical on Triple G for a while.
Can I
Sure, they have
can I
bad
speak
takes.
on that?
Yeah,
Can I
go ahead.
say because Jimmy even came after me once on Twitter for like being critical of like Chris Armas, for example, because it was his buddy. He then deleted the reply because people are like, "What the hell is going on?" To his credit, he DM'd me apologizing, so good for him. But it's not about they've been critical of Greg ever since he was rehired. Their criticism was, yeah, maybe he shouldn't have been rehired, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
That's what they've been. The problem is like you can't really just there's no point on saying there's an issue with the plane when the plane's already falling.
yeah.
Right?
No,
That's the overall
get way
point.
too much credit.
When Berhalter was rehired, the only ones putting legitimate pressure against his rehiring
Was us.
were us, the straight red card, you guys, the fans,
Yeah,
which we are part of the fans too. They were just more like the media. It's like, I wouldn't have brought him for a second cycle, but he's okay. He's built the code. They were part of it. Like you can't give the guy credit for not being well. Again, it's kind of tiresome because for years we fought against that, and then the guys come up with the obvious take 6 months prior, and then all of a sudden they're not shows. They've been critical of Greg. They have not. Let's be
no.
honest, they have not.
No,
That's
I'm
why I stopped
sorry.
watching. That's literally why I stopped watching their show.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you don't real pressure does not look like, hey, look, I wouldn't have done that, but let's get out there and support the guys. Okay. Like, stop. Also, the fact that you said McBride equals slight shill, and I can quote you 2 things off the top of my head that McBride said. McBride had to be told by CBS not to be so obvious with his shilling. Literally. Didn't they say this on Straight Red the other day? That they
Yeah,
told McBride, like, hey, dude, don't shill that much. I was like, try to make it believable. He's not a slight shill, Clayton. You can't say Shaq Moore is our best 1v1 defender and try to compare Greg and Ancelotti and suggest that Greg is a better, more modern coach than Ancelotti and be a slight shill. No, you have got Don Garber's dick so far down your throat if you're saying things like that. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't.
well, to put it into context, it's like saying that a guy that's in the far right or the far left in politics, like the far left, oh, he's just slightly communist, and the guy in the far right is just slightly fascist. It's like no, they're extreme. Like they're as far as it goes. He's not slightly. He's an extreme shill. He's a very big shill, which is unfortunate because he's a U.S. men's national team legend. It's unfortunate that he's like that
Yeah,
nowadays.
they all become cowardly shills after they retire because you know what? The problem is a lot of these guys don't have any other skill sets. They don't, right? They were soccer players their whole lives. And so what happens is they're scared of the real world. So they can't go get a real world job, so they have to become a pundit, right? Now to become a pundit in America, it is literally not about quality or passion or charisma or drive. It is about who can shill the most. So to be a pundit, the more, and this is not guesswork. We've had people tell us they want to get us on some network, but they can't because of we're too honest or we say what we think too much. So what do? Instead of being men, instead of having the courage to go, this is what I think and I'm going to say, and if you don't like it, that's okay. I'll make things work because I've already stashed 5 to 10 million in the bank over the course of my playing career. then you lose all of my respect. So CC Heat says, Pete, can you review for us your Twitter post on what you have heard regarding the USMNT coaching search? So essentially, it's the same as what we've heard before, is that they are pursuing some big names. Now, big names could mean, there's different standards of what a big name is, but definitely coaches in Europe that have had at least some level of success is how I sort of read into that. I'm not saying Ancelotti, Klopp, or Pep necessarily, but certainly European coaches. There is a budget to actually pay them good money, right? So that, those are encouraging things to hear. But at the end of the day, it's a results driven business. Who do they end up hiring? Because you can talk all you want. We're trying. Trying is nice. You know what actually counts? Winning, right? Like it does. If you actually, and by the way, if what they're saying is true, that they have a budget of high seven figures, and this is not just us reporting this was also reported by the Shills. If it is true that they have high seven figures to spend and you get an MLS coach, you are either terrible at your job or you are full of shit. It is one of those two.
Or both.
That's it.
Or both.
Or both, which honestly is probably U.S. soccer, the definition. Like if you had a, not a tagline, but like, when a movie comes out, they have like not a motto, but what's it called? Babe, what's it called when a movie has like a tagline? A log line. That could be U.S. soccer's log line. We're terrible at what we do, and we're full of shit.
Let's just put it this way with U.S. soccer: the guys in charge, leading the process or whatever. JT Batson, Matt Crocker, Parlo Combs probably involved. They have to earn our trust back.
Yeah.
We can put out these reports of what they're telling us. Until we see the hire, I won't believe it. And as of now, they're telling us that money's not a problem. They can pay high seven figures. Just for context right here, Marcelo Bielsa was the highest paid coach in the Copa America. He makes $3.5 million a year. So high seven figures is at least twice that. At least, which means you can get a very good hire. So
if De La Fuente, who just won the Euros, is like on less money than Berhalter was.
Exactly. So if look, high seven figures, I'm going to assume it's somewhere between 7 to 8 million, maybe even 10, but let's say 7 to 8 million. 7 to 8 million, you can hire one heck of a national team coach. If that's the report, that's what we were told, and that's what the shows were told that they posted. The difference between us and the shows is they posted, they believe it. I will believe it when I see it. If this is factual, that they can pay that much, and we end up getting a MLS coach like Cherundolo, for example, which we were also told he's not really an option. That's what we were told. If that happens, we were lied to, right? The Federation lied. Whatever the report was, it was not true because it doesn't make sense. If you have that much money, and also it is a national team that is going to be coach. It'll be a national team that will be the host of the World Cup. That's also an attractive job. It's only 2 years away, so the guy won't be stuck with this for 4 years. There are no excuses. They have the next, from what we heard, it should be by the end of August. So 2-3 weeks, we should get something. We'll see. If we don't get a good coach, I will be extremely discouraged with U.S. soccer. I currently am, but it'll be like that final punch to the gut.
Yeah.
You just vomit and you're like, what? But if we do get a good coach that brings in a good culture, brings the right mindset, and that trickles down to the youth teams and everything, it could be a game changer. So let's try to remain hopeful for now.
Yeah, let's try to remain hopeful. Yeah, so Perry Stein says, moving beyond coaching, we need to develop players with better technical and tactical competence. Yeah, we do. And we're getting better at it, but it's still a long way off from where it needs to be, right? And it's not just that we're bad at developing them, we're bad at identifying them. Look at the coaches that you have. When Greg Berhalter says during the World Cup that he couldn't bring on Gio Reyna because he wanted to bring on Jordan Morris for his pace and power. What message does that send when the number one coaching job in the country, in the biggest tournament in the world, is saying that? What message does that send to every American youth coach everywhere? Prioritize, your try hard, run fast players. Creative, silky, technical players, fuck them. Try to send them home. Make them apologize because they walked too much, right? That's when we have to bring Diego, when we leave a creative, unpredictable player like Diego Luna home in order to bring a Georgie fucking Mihailovic, then what does that tell every youth coach in the country? Leave those useless creative players at home because they don't run around a lot and hustle. And maybe I also heard that maybe there was some friction between him and the coach wanted him to work harder. Well, you know what? If the coach wanted hard work, I don't think he got it from anybody today. So when the high, quote unquote, high profile coaches on the national team are doing nonsense like that, what message do you think that sends to youth coaches in the way that we identify and recruit players, right? We're gonna get the big, tall, strong, fast players and then wonder why we don't make progress as a country. Okay. Moving beyond coaching, we need to develop players with better, yeah. Kevin Serling, U.S. soccer is like our government, full of it. We need a coach and a system. Let's go. Come on. Yeah, let's wait and see who they hire.
I mean, if they're like our government, then might as well just quit.
Yeah, it's getting bad on both sides, by the way.
Yeah.
So Clayton says, I concede on McBride, but Jimmy, Charlie, and Tony reluctantly accepting Triple G rehire does not equal shills. Guys, I'm sorry. They, like you, speak freely. They do not speak freely. They do not speak freely. And if they speak freely, honestly, that's even worse because they have terrible opinions. I encourage a collab. I will not be collabing with those guys. Okay? I'm sorry. I have a responsibility on this channel to bring value. And I don't think any of those guys bring value.
Well, also, let me ask you guys one thing. Would they be covering the U.S. men's national team if they weren't getting paid for it? There you go. That's your answer. Would they be covering it, the channel? Would they be covering if they were making no money off it?
Clayton, I'm glad you enjoy their channel, and if you enjoy it, great. Continue to listen to them, and
not
whatever.
For me, not for us.
But for me, that's a hard no. For me, that's a hard no. I'm not interested in their opinion. I've heard it too much. Guys, Charlie Davies was saying the other day that Thierry Henry was a great coach. It's like have at least a research assistant. Maybe Charlie, doesn't want to do his own research. I don't know. Have at least one research assistant go, Thierry Henry has failed at every coaching job he's ever had, including in the Mickey Mouse Disney Celebration of Soccer League. So
Pete, let me interrupt you there for a second because that's another definition of a shill or a person with conflict of interest. Remind me where Charlie Davies works, CBS?
Yeah.
Where does Thierry Henry work as a pundit?
CBS.
Okay, so guys, you got your answer. By what metric did he say that Thierry was that? They're probably buddies. And I'm sure Henry is probably a cool guy with him and they're cool with each other. But again, if I am in a position to pick the U.S. men's national team coach, no disrespect to you, Pete, I'm not considering Pete because he's my friend. Sorry.
Damn it. Sorry. I will get frustrated on the sidelines and I will say, what is that? That is not football.
You know what's also a definition of a show? It's more like this. Like if Pete says something we disagree with, we push back and we say our opinions with it. They've had like Jesse Marsh spit a bunch of nonsense in their podcast and there was no pushback. There was like, I'm sorry, and you could tell like if they disagree with it, just push back. They had like Marsh like consistently say names wrong, say crazy things like Johnny can't play his own six. I wouldn't have brought Gio Reyna and back and forth to a point where I remember Berhalter even called out Jesse Marsh. Berhalter, but they didn't. But they did. It's just. Like how do you, if someone says Thierry Henry is a good option for the U.S. men's national team coach, I'll just ask them, as I did in the 7 things as I asked, is like, sure, by what metric? That's it. Like, by what metric? Explain to me why you think he's a good pick. I'm sorry. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about them anymore. They have their show. If you want to watch it,
way too much airtime, to be honest.
Yeah.
The system of Triple G and Ernie Stewart was one reason why Gio was not being played in the best way. Hope a new coach will bring a fresh outlook. Yeah, let's hope so. But also, and Tac mentioned this on his stream, we're going to be a lot harsher on the players now at this next cycle, whoever the coach is. These players are not little children. These players have not only encouraged, but advocated for mediocrity by defending and advocating for Greg. A lot of them have not made good club decisions for one reason or another. And to be honest, even shit on the fans who didn't want Greg back, particularly Christian Pulisic. Okay? So all of these players need to be held a lot more accountable. And maybe even me, I could probably hold my hand up and say that I have maybe given the players too much of a pass at times and not held them accountable for their performances, either for their club or for their national team. So maybe more people are going to call me negative, but I have to go with what I think. And I'm sorry, I think we have a bunch of soft, underperforming players who have some talent, but are way too in love with camp, Boy Scout camp, like kumbaya campfire business when they come into camp, and not on winning and performing and holding each other accountable. Tyler Adams should not have played as much as he did at Copa America. Okay. But Beta Boy Greg, he went to Beta Boy Greg and literally told him, "You have to play me. You have to play me." He like wrestled him on the touchline, and everyone goes, "Oh, what a champion. That's the kind of mentality we need." If Gio Reyna had done that, you guys would have been pillaring him and asking for him to be sent home. How can Gio Reyna get almost sent home for walking on the field, but Tyler Adams can literally wrestle the coach because he doesn't like the playing time and people give him a pass? Sorry, all of our players, Adams and Reyna, both need to be held more accountable. And this coming cycle, both Tac and I are going to do that, both for club and country. They need to be held more accountable. They really, really do. Let's do player ratings, shall we?
That's going to be fun now.
Yeah, and I'm going to be very harsh. We'll start with Patrick Schulte. Ironically, okay, what did you think about the third goal?
I thought it was on
Schulte
him.
at fault?
They were so slow. Like
He was slow to get down.
Outside of that, two of the goals were penalty kicks. One of them was like close range cross finish, and he did it's still not a good rating because one goal is totally on him, and he continues to not be able to play. I'm going to give him a 4.
Yeah, I think 4 is
probably
fair.
One of the highest ratings, by the way.
Yeah, no, 4 is fair. He had a really good save in the first half and was pretty good with his decision making. I want to encourage Schulte to get out of MLS, right? He's kind of done everything he can in MLS. I don't think he's going to grow anymore, right? Even if that means going to the Belgian league, right? Or wherever. Get out of MLS, go somewhere where there's real pressure, go somewhere where they're going to force you to play out of the back because you're still, he's not young in terms of having basic technical skills. If you don't have the basic technical skills to play out of the back at 23, guys, you're never going to be great playing out of the back. But can he improve it by 10, 15%? Yes. Okay. But I really want to encourage him to get out of MLS, right? It is not a league for growth once you hit a certain level. So 4 for him. Yeah, I'm going to go first on Harriel. Harriel gets a 1. That was the worst performance of everybody on the field, probably, or one of the worst was Nathan Harriel. Had some culpability on almost all the goals. Offered nothing going forward, looked scared, nervous, and shaky. Sorry, Harriel.
We don't give zeros, right?
No, 1 is the worst.
1 is like you were able to walk.
Yeah,
He walked. What did Harriel do right today? Oh, he walked. He didn't he was capable of walking. I'll give him a 1 because that's the lowest rating we give. 1.
So Matt Crocker says he is young for goalie standards, Pete. Yes, he is young for goalkeeper standards, but I'm not talking about goalkeeping standards. I'm talking about basic technical ability. To be able to play out of the back under pressure, you need a basic technical floor. And if you don't have that at age 23, you can improve it marginally, but you're never going to be good at it. That's just reality, guys. That's just reality, right? Look at Matt Turner. He didn't have it. How many years? Arsenal, right? Nottingham Forest with the national team under Greg Berhalter. He's not going to get better at it. Maybe he improved 5% since New England. I don't know, 10%, maybe, right? But it's not about the goalie's, age. It's about, do you have the technical ability? He doesn't have it either. Gavin Beavers doesn't have it. Brady doesn't have it. Gaga doesn't have it. The only guy that has it is Diego Cochin in our youth ranks. That's it. You go first on Walker.
Walker was culpable in the second goal. One of the players, not the main reason, but one of them, right? Harriel messes up. He goes to cover Harriel. He's also ball watching, doesn't cover it hard enough.
Caught in no man's land, really.
Miles also caught in no man's land for that one, which we're going to talk about Miles in a second. But overall, look, and I'm very critical of Zimmerman, did most of his job, set up that play for Paxton, almost getting a goal. Had a goal-saving tackle, too, in the game at one point. For that reason, I'll give Walker Zimmerman a 4.5.
Yeah, I'll be slightly more generous to Walker. I'll give him a 5. Um, because he was probably the best of a bad bunch. But make no mistake, he should not be with the national team. He's also 31, right? So it's all downhill from here. Like, it's not going to get better for sure. If anything, he's going to get worse. He shouldn't be on the national team,
I
guys.
think he's better than Miles, though.
Yeah, better than Miles. But, like, again, that's a low bar. That's a low. I'd rather have
Miles was in the Copa America roster of Greg Berhalter.
Right. Crazy.
Um,
And then Miles. Ooh, I'm giving Miles a 2.
1.5, a little bit above like Harriel. Wasn't as bad as Harriel, but had a few bad. Because the thing with Miles too is he had like 1 or 2 bad giveaways. Just got lucky he didn't get punished by it. Otherwise, we would be giving him a 1.
And by the way, he's been doing that every game. Remember against New Zealand and Guinea, he's been giving away terrible balls, like stuff that you're like, wait,
he missed a sitter also. He missed the sitter. Remember when it was 1-0?
Yeah, he missed a complete sitter. That was, you have to at least hit the target. It was like 6 yards off target. That's like,
and wide open. No one close to him.
Yeah, dude. In the park where I play, if some overweight 45-year-old misses a goal that far away, people pillory him. Mierda, puta, whatever they say. I don't agree with it all, but I'm just saying, like, that there's more pressure in my.
So Miles gets a 1.5, just a little bit better than Harriel.
Yeah, terrible from Miles, and we need to stop. MLS media needs to stop cranking him up as this great center back. Stop it. They're terrible. He's awful. Should never play for the national team again. Miles Robinson never recovered form. No, he was never good, guys. He was never good. His major injury still being picked, MLS incest pick. Guys, the idea that Miles was good before his injury is just not true. Okay? He looked okay in CONCACAF at times, in some CONCACAF games. But he was never actually a good defender. He got cooked by Diego Rossi when we played against Paraguay in a friendly 3-0. Cooked. So he was never a good player. It's just that I think he lost a little bit of his speed after the Achilles injury, and so it's more obvious now. But he was never good. He was a free agent, and nobody in Europe wanted him. Usually a free agent is like, oh, he's a free agent? Sure, I'll take him at least as backup. Nobody wanted him. Some people offered him chump change, supposedly. What's he making at Cincinnati? $500,000?
No. He's making good money. They're like 1-something million or close to 2.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, they paid $3 million to Walker Zimmerman in MLS, dude. Like, MLS overpays the American player. To be fair, the Premier League also overpays for the English players, but most of them are at least decent or good. Yeah, Miles 1.5.
All right. Token. I'm giving Token a 3. I thought he was quite poor today on both sides of the ball. Was it the third goal? Second goal. The second goal, he didn't track his man. It was his man who scored. He didn't track him. Offered very little going forward. His crossing was terrible. Build out was poor. I don't see it with Token. Some people were very high on him. He did okay in the group stage. I don't see it with Token. I'm giving him a 3.
Yeah, I'll give a 3 because I don't feel like thinking about it. It just was poor, like terrible.
Yeah. Tessman. You go first on Tessman.
Super slow, as always. Like I said, no recovery speed. No recovery speed. Like we talk about John.
No explosiveness either.
Yeah, John Brooks is slow on the turn. Oh, this guy makes John Brooks look like Usain Bolt. The passing, nothing really happened with it. I'm giving Tessman like a 3.5, roughly 3.54. It was like poor, not good.
Yeah, 3. I'll give him a 3. Anonymous. Didn't do the job of a 6. McGlynn. I'm going to give McGlynn a 4.5 because even though he didn't do a lot, like McGlynn, this has been our criticism of McGlynn ever since his U20 days. He's got a wicked left foot and great set pieces. The problem is when you ramp up the speed of play and the pressure in midfield, he crumbles. He needs time in order to do that. And today he had some good set pieces, right? Some chances that maybe we could have done better with. But in terms of like dictating tempo and orchestrating the game, he wasn't able to do it under this kind of a pressure environment. And so I'll give him a 4. Slightly below average, but only because of his set pieces. Again, like Schulte, I encourage McGlynn to get out of MLS, to go somewhere where we can see what he looks like under real pressure.
I'll give him a 4 also, just because I gave Tessman a 3.5 and I thought he wasn't great, but he was better than Tessman. So for that reason.
Um, you go first on Paredes.
Paredes got us a couple fouls, hustled, helped with the work rate there, helped track back. I didn't think he was horrible. Of course, the guy has limitations. He's not capable. I don't think he has the explosive speed to blow by defenders. I think that's one thing he lacks. He does fall a little too easy as well. Um, I'll give Paredes like a 5.5. I think it's fair, slightly above average. I think he was the only player that gave us a slight edge of like maybe pulling a result, drawing the fouls up top, doing something. Not perfect, not great, but he wasn't horrible. So I'll give him a 5.5, above average.
Yeah, I think 5.5 is fair. I think 5 is fine. Um, of all the starters in this tournament, he's probably the one that impressed the most, and that's not saying much. We need to see how he does. I want to see a step forward with him this year because 3 goals at Wolfsburg last year. I want to see a step forward for Kevin this year, right? Maybe he converts into a left back long term because he is pretty good defensively. I would like to, he's got balance issues to sort out. He's not explosive in dribbling 1v1, right? That's a big issue with Kevin. But I think for the tools that he has, he tries to make use of them, and I think 5.5 is fair. I'm going to go next on Georgie. We gave Harrio a 0.1. I'm giving a 1. I'm giving Georgie a 0.5. Since we don't hand out zeros, you're an overage player. You were consistently the worst attacking player in this team, not named Duncan. I'll give you that. He's better than Duncan, but I'm going to hold you to a higher standard than Duncan because you're the overage player. So you're supposed to have a real impact here. And I'm sorry, but Marko Mitrovic, I don't care that you worked with this guy at the Chicago Fire. I don't care that he's a Serbian of Serbian descent like you. It is shit coaching to not be able to tell that this guy actively makes the team worse. And the fact that you started him 4 games in a row is shameful. Like, you need to have a good hard look in the fucking mirror, sir, and ask yourself why a bunch of itinerant YouTubers and fans who don't even have our, high-level coaching licenses can tell you that Georgi Mihailovic is shit, and for some reason or other, you can't see it. I don't care if Greg Berhalter made you bring him. You didn't have to start him 4 games in a row. It's disgusting.
Well, also Berhalter made him bring him. That's the one thing we're like, well, how are we going to blame Berhalter for that? You still make your own. Oh, I would have gotten. They wouldn't have fired you before. He wanted to bring Mihailovic, and Berhalter's not around, and he kept playing Mihailovic.
Yeah.
So it's funny how the overage player Mihailovic, which is the only overage attacker that he brought, right? The other two are center backs. When the team needed goals, this guy was so bad that Mitrovic had to sub him out in a crucial moment.
Yeah.
I'm giving Mihailovic the same as Harrio. I gave Harrio a 1. I'm giving Mihailovic a 1 too. Just because it's like, it doesn't matter. 1.5. Just they were abysmal. Abysmal.
Yeah. Next up, Yao. Yao was poor today. And some of that is going to be on the fact that he was going up against Hakimi, top 3 right back in the world, at least. And I think we misused Yao, but at the end of the day, your job was to try to create down the left, and you weren't able to do that. I don't want to be too harsh on Yao, but I think 3.5 is fair.
Yeah, I'll go with 3.5, 4-ish, something between that.
Yeah.
Tough matchup for him, and definitely not the right setup for him to actually succeed. But still, Kevin Paredes also wasn't in the best matchup possible for himself, and he tried to make things happen. Yao didn't. It was Yao's worst performance of the tournament. Sure, Hakimi, that's a completely different beast compared to other players he faced throughout the tournament, but still, 3.5, that's fine.
Yeah. And I think I will talk more about this when we get to fucking Mitrovic's ratings. Paxton. I thought Paxton worked hard, but had very little service and not a ton of quality. He's not really a false 9, right? I mean, he's better than Duncan, which is why he was playing there. And it was a tough shift for him today. I think 4, below average for Paxton. Wasn't horrible considering the circumstances he was in. He was mostly defending, let's be honest. And again, so many times we put players in positions where it's difficult for them to succeed, whether because of the opponent or because of just the lack of alternative options, right? But at the end of the day, he didn't do much. I'm giving him a 4.
Yeah, there's a lot of Aronson and Paxton, right?
Yeah.
A lot of similarities of like flopping around the floor, struggling with physicality. Just like Brendan also doesn't have that explosiveness to really blow by defenders. He seems to have a little bit more vision than Brendan Aronson, like putting the
Yeah.
through ball and all of that.
He also doesn't incessantly turn under any pressure, right? Brendan starts dribbling with the ball and a player even approaches him.
he
He
turns
doesn't
back.
try to beat him 1v1. He turns around to try to protect the ball. And then as he's turning, you see him trying to like stay on his feet. At least Paxton, to his credit, tries to look for a pass or tries to dribble something, you
Yeah,
know?
I'll give a 4 because again, it's one of those where you gave the rating first, and there's not much to argue there. It's like a 4, 3, something like. It wasn't good. It wasn't a
Yeah.
good day. The subs. Do you want me to look it up here?
So we have Duncan and Booth were the first two subs.
At
Duncan
the,
did nothing.
at the
Two.
66, Duncan did what Duncan does.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts. Two, Taylor Booth had some bright moments, struggled to impact the game. Again, it's like you put Taylor Booth on when we're down 2-0, right? You take off Griffin Yao, who's a player he can maybe play with, and you put Dunkin' Donuts on. So now what's he supposed to do? He had one or two good moments. I thought he maybe could have done more, but ultimately Taylor Booth did not start a single game, which is a travesty. Out of these 4 games, he didn't let him start one, but Georgie gets to start all 4. Complete travesty. And I'll give him a 5 because I think he was put in a very tough position.
Yeah, it's one of those where you come into the game where we had like quit. We love the second goal, we quit. When you put Duncan McGuire in, you're throwing the white flag there.
Yeah.
So I'll give Booth also a 5. I think that's fine. Had one good moment, one good cross, and outside of that, he tried to make things happen. Didn't work. I don't know why he barely played. Duncan McGuire, I want to just give him like a 1, 2, but I think Hario and what's his name, Mihailovic were worse. Duncan, I'll give him a 2, but like Duncan didn't do crap the whole tournament. And I said this in the stream of the roster release. I said this on the preview. And then some people, usually like Orlando City fans, guys, I watch Orlando City play. And when I gave my thoughts on Duncan McGuire, it's based off a guy that has watched him play at least 20 to 30 games at this point, at least. And I'm saying again, he's not a good player. He's not a good player. Like, it's not that it wasn't the system. He's just not a good player.
Even if he goes to Blackburn, he's still not a good player.
Still not a good player. And I told this, and Orlando City fans will go whine in my comment section and just keep saying that I was just hating on Duncan and he's a useful. It's like, no, he's not. I mean, sure, he can be useful in certain situations for certain teams, like playing Brexit ball. He's not a good player.
MLS is honestly probably his level. Like, look, Daryl DK is probably a better player than Duncan.
Daryl DK is considerably better than Duncan. I don't know about DK in terms of like now. He had 2 Achilles, but I watched DK for Orlando and I watched Duncan. DK is a better player than Duncan, or was.
And DK is not a good player.
That too, yeah. He's also not a good player.
So it's, Wiley and Kramaski, they played too little. I'm not even going to rate them. Was there a 5th sub?
I mean, Atencio, but I can't remember what he did.
Yeah, I'm not any of those 3. They played too little for me to really rate them. And now let's talk about Mitrovic, okay? And there's 4 to 5 things that we usually try to talk about with the coach. Starting lineup, mentality, tactics, and game management. The starting lineup was not terrible outside of Georgie, okay? But again, it's kind of like duh. Like, it took him. His starting lineup started off like shit. They got better over time, ironically, is the things we were saying from the beginning. So I'm going to give him a 3 for the starting lineup because there's no excuse to keep starting Georgie when he's looked like so much shit and have Taylor Booth on the bench. The mentality was not good. We showed up soft, scared, weak. We didn't respond under challenges. We crumbled under pressure. So mentality was 1. Game management was terrible. We conceded a goal, no changes. 0 links, no changes.
0 links.
Okay? So no changes after we conceded the goal. We clearly needed a goal and we struggled to create. Second half comes out, still no changes. 0 links. Finally, after we concede the second goal near the 60th minute, he's like, okay, I guess I should do. And then even the changes, not just that. I want to talk about the tactical setup. Having Griffin Yao go up against Hakimi was a mistake. Your best attacker should not go up against their best defender. You should put your best attacker go up against their weakest defender. And not just that, Kevin Paredes can do a job defensively against their best, honestly, still their best attacker is Ashraf Hakimi. So you should have had Kevin Paredes on the left and Yao on the right, or Yao at the 9 and Paxton or Taylor Booth on the right, and then Paxton as the 10. That's what you should have done. So even with the starting lineup, you were still set up poorly. Your game management was poor. I'm giving him a 1. I'm sorry. I don't even care about the 3 for the starting lineup. You don't get credit for starting Griffin Yao after how he performed in the last game. That's duh. You don't get credit for benching Duncan finally after he's been shit forever. That's duh. And you still started your Serbian boy, Georgie. What do you give Mitrovic?
1.
Yeah. Same.
1. What else am I going to give? It's a 4-0 win. He died on the Georgi Mihailovic hill. The overage players he brought didn't really step up and were to blame. He made changes in the game that were way too late, didn't react quick. There were issues in the first. Honestly, there were changes that should have been made in the first half. Like, good coaches, if they see something going south, like going wrong, they'll make the adjustments in the 30th minute of the game, 40th. They'll do it right there, not wait for halftime. But we came back from halftime the same way. I guess we moved the line a little bit higher up the field. There's no point to give Mitrovic in this game. It's a 1. What else are we going to give him? I guess like it depends on if you want to rate the whole tournament. But we literally beat 2 teams that were horrible, and we lost to 2 teams that were good. Like nothing crazy, just good.
Yeah, and got thumped by both of them.
Yeah, destroyed. Not even close. Yeah.
Certified Chad, why didn't they bring good 23-plus-year-old players like Pulisic or others in Europe? Why the lame MLSers? So we don't know exactly why each player, A, didn't come or didn't want to come or wouldn't have been released even if they said they wanted to come. But some, like Hakimi, managed to go, right? Like, what's his name?
Otamendi, Julian Alvarez, Naby Keita, Forgini.
Yeah, there are lots of players who figured out how to make it there. So I think if you wanted to go badly enough, at least some players could have convinced their club. But I do think we also didn't really want some players who deserve looks, like an Austin Trusty. We would rather give it to Miles Robinson instead.
I think there was a lot of MLS influence in the roster, and some people wanted to use this to promote MLS to casual fans. So I think that's what it was. So they wanted to get some MLS guys there. That's what I think, at least. Merely speculation, by the way.
Yeah. Kyler, mentality issue, honestly. We had enough talent to do better than this. Harriel was utter garbage. Georgie awful. Experienced backline trash. So the thing is, when you say we had enough talent to do better than this, you mean in the roster, or do you mean overall? Like, sure, we could have brought some different players, definitely. In the roster, there were some other talented players that didn't get a look and that didn't even get picked, for sure. But I think this team played about to the level of their talent. I think they were set up poorly and the mentality was poor. So they maybe could have done better in certain games, but I don't know that there was so much talent on the field.
It just seemed the team that was like, every time they conceded a goal, which was like against France and Morocco, it seemed like both times we just crumbled. We didn't have a response. Yeah. It was almost as if the plan was to never concede ever. Like they never thought about like, hey, what if we concede? What's the plan? I don't know.
Yeah. Clampack FC says, I feel like we will be talking about the same issues in 20 years until we institute an open system where everything is about merit and every community is part of the ecosystem. You know what's ironic? The same people who were like Greg Berhalter lovers were the same people that were against an open system. Okay? Mediocrity runs thick through the veins of many American soccer fans. And the Kumbaya League that is MLS and the Kumbaya coach that is Greg Berhalter, you're going to have a deep love for both if you love mediocrity. A closed system where the only way you get in is by having a billionaire pay a fee to get you in. Like the Cincinnati fans, we've earned our way here. No, you didn't. No, you didn't earn shit, actually. A billionaire paid $500 million to get you in. So shut the fuck up. Mediocrity and a love for it is bred very deep into many American soccer fans, especially the MLS fanboys. And that mediocrity is the same thing that makes you love a clown like Berhalter as it does think it's okay to not participate in the Open Cup or have a closed system.
Yeah, I think we should even change the way we call it. We shouldn't even call it an open system. We should just call it a merit-based system. It's
Yeah,
merit-based. You have to earn your way there. Sure, big spenders will move up higher, but it's not guaranteed. You can spend a
no,
lot and still fail. While in MLS, if you pay 500 million, you're there.
you're
You're
there.
there. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter. And again, like I feel like we'll be talking about the same issues in 20 years. Listen, guys, if the same issues are there in 20 years, I'm not going to be here talking about it. Just to be honest,
no.
there's only so much I can do. Like if
Tac and I will be here until 2026 for sure. That's all we
Mhm.
can promise right now. After that, we just have to see how our lives go and if it's worth it covering a team that is so, in love with mediocrity, right? And a federation that doesn't really want the game to grow here.
because guys got to understand, like we talked about earlier, the people that work for CBS and all that, they're it's just a job for them. They're just being employed and being paid to talk there, and some of them shill. For us, it's like trying to help in one way, shape, or form, keep the fan base informed, engage, build a
Put
community,
some
and
pressure.
put some pressure and try to help U.S. soccer grow as a whole. Uh, if we're doing this all the time and nothing is changing, I mean, like, I got to move on with my life at some point. If we start to see results and like, oh, we're improving as a soccer nation, it's going there. And again, I think if me and Pete ever do play a role, it'll be minimal. But if I can play a minimal role, I'll keep doing it. But if we go past 2026 and nothing is changing, there's no improvement in how the federation's conducted, MLS, and all that, then guys, I'm sorry, we can't keep doing this forever. We're not paid shills from a media company. We're fans just like you. What would you do if you were a fan? Like you guys, fans,
Yeah.
you wouldn't keep doing it.
And shout out to all of our Patreon supporters, honestly, and the people who become members on YouTube. That's consistent income that we know we can rely on. Look, it's not going to pay our rent or support us, but at least maybe can pay for a couple tanks of gas every month or some groceries, and we really appreciate it. And if you do want to support the channel, we both have a Patreon. I think mine is $3 a month is the average tier. I don't know what yours is, Tac, $5 a month or something.
I don't know from the top of my head at this point.
But yeah, if you want to support the channel, that's one way to do it. And thanks for all the super chats. Look, just being here, smashing the like button, being part of this community is huge. And we'll be here for a while, but who knows what's in the future, right? Julian says, the only thing I'm looking forward to now is who they announce as a coach. Do you guys have news about that? Again, no news, zero links, zero links. As far as names go, I'll be very honest with you, zero links. No, we know that they're currently trying to pursue a high-level coach, but we have no names, and as of right now, no update. So, like Tack said earlier, both JT Batson and Matt Crocker and Gucci Onyewu, another interesting character who doesn't get a lot of heat, even though he should, Fraud Watch. Y'all are on Fraud Watch, okay? Last one here from Green Great Basin. I woke up at 5 a.m. to watch this game. You and me both, buddy. You and me both. The things we do for the toxic relationships that we're in with American soccer. Well, at least there's Jake Landau if you guys quit. Guys, you deserve better than Jake Landau. That might keep us going a little bit longer. Yeah, look, it's not how we wanted to end the summer, right? And hopefully the U.S. women can make us proud. But I would say hold off until they announce who the new coach is going to be, because that will tell us a lot. Are they learning their lessons, or is it just lip service?
Yeah, I mean, until then, I'll try to remain hopeful. Let's see how it does with the coaching hire. That can make it or break it for U.S. soccer in the next few years.
Yeah. We are doing the under 20s later today, Tac. What time does that game start on Eastern time?
It's at 5 p.m. We played like crap the last game. We're in the semifinals against Panama. Let's hope we get a win there. Not that it matters too much at this point because we already qualified to the U20 World Cup, but it would be nice to have a final against Mexico on Sunday. Try to win
at least a
bragging
trophy
rights
this summer.
Yeah, like the U20s get a trophy, something, right?
Yeah, so we'll do the same, at least a stream, probably a post game as well, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of this community, for all the love. Patreon, I'll have this game broken down tomorrow. Are you doing a 7 things we learned? Probably, no?
Yeah, I'll do it. There's a lot that we learned here. Probably more of like a 7 things of like the whole tournament, right? At this point, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. All right, guys, have a great one. Smash that like button before you go, and we'll see you soon.